Thank you so much. As Sarah said, Julie and I know each other well. Sarah and I know each other well. Jen, I'm so happy to meet you. um, so I was introduced to Priority Matrix about a year ago and quickly fell in love with them. Just a little bit about me. I am the typical high achiever, always have been since I was just a little kid. And I have this curiosity for efficiency and effectiveness. So anytime there's a new project management software that's out there or a new tool or way to do stuff, I want to explore it. I do believe in learning about different options and different systems and then customizing them for how they work for you. So I love bullet journaling, but if I went 100% into bullet journaling, I feel like I would be wasting my time, and there's a lot that I don't get out of it. But what I do, here's my little notebook. I have my indexes actually in the back on this one. So I have an index of all my topics with the page numbers in my notebook. And then in the back here too, I write action items, and then the rest is all notes from my meetings. So what happens is in a meeting, if I ever have an action item, in that meeting, I'll flip to my action items list and write it out there. And then about once a week, I go through and update my table of contents or my index for what is all in this lovely notebook of mine. With bullet journaling, you can go down a rabbit hole of doing squares and circles and daily stuff and monthly stuff. And there was a lot that just overwhelmed me. But what I loved were these concepts of bullet journaling. So I took them into my productivity notes. I do geek out on productivity stuff. And yes, this is the notebook that Julie gave me as a Christmas gift. It has my name. It makes me feel so official. And one thing that I also love about a lot of productivity systems is to have mini rewards as you achieve stuff. Rewards are a bunch of free mini things that just make you feel good and accomplished. So one of my favorite rewards is to have a day on my calendar with no calendar invites, nothing to do, no to-do list, just a day where I get to wake up at whatever time and just do whatever I feel like in that moment. And that to me is the biggest, most motivating reward. So I will bust my butt through the week to get through a number of action items so that Saturday or Sunday I can have a day of nothing. I'm a founding member of Rise in Denver. I'm so grateful that Rise has come to Denver because I've met incredible women and learned so much from so many different members. And I'm building a simple, which I'll describe in detail, revenue diverse, financially independent life. So a little bit about my life. I have two businesses that I focus on. Be genuine, stay determined. I do coaching, freelance event consulting, communication consulting, communication plans. Jen, I do a lot with Fortune 500 companies, helping their leaders connect their employees to share their visions and to improve culture and employee retention. So you and I are like-minded women. And then I also founded the Pledgettes last year, which is a community for women to talk about money. So we host weekly webinars with a variety of different topics and experts who can share their perspective to help our members improve their relationship with money and achieve their financial goals. So last night, Julie was on a webinar talking about being a self-employed woman and thriving in uncertain economies. Don't give your work away for free was one of our key headlines. In addition to those two businesses, my husband and I own a restaurant, and then we also own 3 rental properties. So being efficient and effective is required for my life, and it also has helped me add a number of different revenue streams. and projects because I know how to efficiently keep them all organized in my head in one place. So today we're going to discuss the benefits of a priority matrix, and they should include both your personal and professional life because we only have 24 hours in a day, and we don't get these clean breaks between personal and professional time. Want to share some best practices for how we're staying productive when our routine has changed, whether it's a global pandemic or kids are off of school for the summer. There are a number of situations where our routine can change, and how can we pivot? And then brainstorm some efficient ways to delegate tasks of high urgency and low value. So priority matrix, if in the chat, if you use a priority matrix, will you put have if you already have one? If you have heard of a priority matrix, put the word heard. Or if you are here to learn about priority matrix, put the word here in chat. So you have one, you've heard about them, or you're here to learn about them. All right, cool. Jennifer and Melody are here. Have heard. All right, we're all got a good different group here. So a priority matrix is a tool that helps with focus and prioritization. It's a next level to-do list, and the biggest value of any productivity tool that's out there is to get tasks out of your head and onto paper, whether it's digital paper or physical paper. One of my favorite books of all time, as we geek out here for a second, is called The Checklist Manifesto. So the Checklist Manifesto talks about how these highly intelligent professions use checklists throughout their day-to-day. So surgeons and pilots have a series of checklists that they do that really get stuff out of their head and onto paper. My favorite thing about the Checklist Manifesto is within these checklists, there are different pause points. And a pause point is, you do 10 things, you pause and you say, does this feel right? Was anything out of the ordinary? Do I need to do anything differently today? Then you can move on to the next checklist. So you think about what it takes to get a plane ready to fly, and all the different steps and action items that have to happen. I'm very grateful that these professionals are using checklists instead of trying to just remember everything. Because if you forget one step, it's probably a very big error and not just a little thing that everybody will forget about. So I try to treat that the same way of I live by my checklist, but I also establish these different pause points to check in to make sure what I'm doing is high value, urgent work, and if I'm spending my time how I want to be doing it. All right, so right now, if you all could pull out your to-do list or take about 3 minutes to write down everything you have. So include both professional and personal items. Include everything regardless of the value, frequency, or urgency. Some things on my list are P&L statements, social media posts, speaking opportunities, event planning, event coordination, laundry, walking the dog, playing solitaire. I love doing this every day. Watching stuff on Hulu. So take a couple minutes and just try to get everything out of your head and onto a piece of paper. Sarah, I should have brought some music to play during this time. All right, write down those last items and then we'll come back together. All right, and now come on back. Melody, it's great to see your face. um, Now, if you want to do this at a next level and spend an hour plus writing down everything, I encourage you to either think about on a daily basis or weekly basis, depending on how routine your routine is. But write down everything you do in a given week for your business and for your personal life. And then if you want to take it to the next level, write down about how much time you spend doing that in a week so that you can really look at how much time are you spending on high value, high urgent work. All right. So this is a priority matrix. And just like any other matrix, you could pick whatever you want as the axis. The traditional priority matrix is one axis is urgency and one axis is value. So you should be spending your time in the upper right quadrant as much as possible. So high urgent, high value work is what you should be doing now. If there is high urgent but low value work, that's work you can delegate. If it's high value but low urgency, that's due later. And if it's low urgency, low value, some people say forget it and don't do it. I like calling it a parking lot because I have these aspirations that I'm going to do everything one day and that there's a good idea sitting in my parking lot that one day, maybe 10 years from now, I will get to. But I like having it out of my head. And I feel like if it wasn't in the parking lot, it would just be sitting in the back of my head, distracting me from doing work. So I like keeping it in a parking lot. So the next step is to take that list of what we did and to put that in the bucket. So these were my items from 2 slides ago and how I put them in different buckets. So if you want to draw a matrix on your paper underneath and just put your items in each bucket. So what's that high urgency, high value stuff that you do? And then if you're struggling to figure out what bucket to put something in, maybe you need to get more specific with what that task is. So you can see I have walk the dog in the morning as a high urgency, high value item for me. That's something I have to do now. I have to do it every morning. The dog needs to pee. But I'm able to delegate walking the dog in the evening to my husband. So we're very much a divide and conquer couple. And so that's how walk the dog can be in 2 buckets for me. Right now I have social media posts in high value, high urgency, do now. But what I can do is break those down into more specific tasks. So now when I look at social media, on this slide, I put do now as develop a strategy with different series, batching my content, and writing captions. I brought on a virtual assistant to delegate some of my social media work. So she does the Canva design and she schedules every post in later. I have a do later tab. So if I ever get an idea of like, oh, that would be a good social media post at some point, I put that in my to do later list. And then insights and reporting is something that I see value in to know which posts are performing best, what's getting the most comments or the most likes, what's that engagement look like, as something I need to do, but that's sort of a do later that I know I don't have time for right now. And then in my parking lot, Pinterest and YouTube, because it's always sitting there, and I know one day I'll need to get there, but I'm not ready to learn a new system right now. So here are some best practices that I use with my priority matrix. I do monthly check-ins on my priority matrix. I'm going to flip to the next app because Sarah, I've showed Sarah my priority matrix before. So I just took a screenshot this morning of what my priority matrix looks like. So I use Asana. And as you can see in the left bar, I have a priority matrix board. And I do that in do now, do later, delegate, and parking lot. So I knew when I brought on a virtual assistant, it was very easy for me to say, hey, just go to the delegate tab in my priority matrix board and just start knocking off what you think you can do and ask questions about it. And then when I am in the zone to get a lot of work done, how I schedule my days right now is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I do meetings. I do coaching meetings on Tuesday. I do pledge-at meetings Wednesday, Thursday. And then Mondays and Fridays are my days to just focus and get stuff done. So a lot of my due dates are on Fridays. And my priority matrix is where I will go to figure out what I should be doing. So there's a ton of project management software out there, Asana, Trello, Monday, Priority Matrix even has an app. Put in the chat if you use any project management software and which ones you like. Another thing that I like about Asana is that you can have an action item on multiple boards. So you can see I have a yellow board that's a social media calendar. Probably should have just shared my screen for this. But in my social media calendar board, I can also put a task on my priority matrix. And then it shows up whether I'm working in my social media calendar board or my priority matrix board. So I'm seeing Julie uses ClickUp personally, but I know that you use Asana with some of your clients. Jennifer Wade, project management tools these softwares like Asana and Trello have free versions, and they may be very helpful as you continue to grow your business. Sarah tried Trello but didn't find it flexible enough. I always find that it's good to start small, and maybe as the Rise Denver team's growing, this is a good way to communicate. But I'm also, I also believe, there's a potential for too many systems, and that's what I see so often. So when I was building out a communication strategy for a Fortune 500 client, they communicated via email. Then we built them a communication app. They also did text messages, and they had in-person meetings. And so when we launched the communication app, we said, well, I built 2 flowcharts because I geek out again. One was for the communicators to figure out what channel to post their message. So is it action oriented? Is it urgent? Is it team specific? And that flow chart would tell them, okay, based on your answers, you should send that as an email, or you should post that on the communication app. And we also did a flow chart. Well, we also did a one sheet for the audience to say, this is where you can find that specific information. So go to the communication app for this. Expect that your manager is going to send action-oriented emails to you, but most communication should go in the communication app. We also decided that a best practice for that would be to only send the message on one channel. What was happening is that we would post it in the communication app, and then managers would copy and paste it and put it in an email and send the email to their team. So then it's like, well, I'm never going to use the communication app because I'm just going to listen to my manager and just use that app. So I see that so often when there's like Slack channels and Facebook groups and communication apps and different apps. So Jennifer's been there. Yeah, it's kind of like app overload. So if you use Asana and pieces of paper and Post-it notes and a million things for your to-do list, it's going to be the same, that you're not going to have a clear system for what to do or where to go to be productive and efficient. So like I said earlier, in my notebook in the back, I list out my action items. Generally, my best practice is at the end of every day, I will go into this, and then if I can do the task really fast, I'll just do the task. If it's going to take me more than 2 minutes, then I will add it to an Asana task. So that when I'm ready to do focused work, I don't go to my notebook, I just go to Asana. Yeah, Sarah says we use Google Docs, Slack, texting, email. Yes, it just becomes so much. All right. So some of my best practices with this is I do monthly check-ins on my priority matrix. I look at that parking lot stuff and see, should I move anything to a different box? I kind of look at everything and make sure that the big stuff is in the right quadrant. Priority matrix really helped me prep for growth because I would evaluate that delegate quadrant the most and look at, okay, so within my social media, I said that I needed to delegate Canva design and later scheduling. So then I asked myself, what's the best position to handle those tasks? Is it a concierge, a local business, a virtual assistant, marketing coordinator, event coordinator, operations manager, your partner, maybe your kids? Looking at laundry, that is always in my delegate. I feel weird about Jennifer, yes, I will send the slides. I feel weird about having somebody else do my laundry, and that's a personal mindset thing that I just have to work towards. But I was getting really annoyed because I would spend hours doing laundry. And so how I broke laundry down more is now I make my husband sort his laundry. So there's 2 laundry baskets. And if he doesn't want me to dry something, he better put it in the right basket because I'm not sorting the baskets. They're just going in the laundry. So is that something that your partner can take on or kids can take on so you're not doing every part of laundry? I don't fold my husband's laundry either. It's just on the bed in the second bedroom, and if he ever wants it, he can go find it. But when we first got married, I did everything. I sorted, I did the laundry, I hung dry everything. I then folded it and I put it away. And I love it. You guys all have these different systems for how to be more productive with laundry. So then after you kind of think about that delegate and figure out who the best position is to handle those tasks, figure out your budget. So if we want to stick on laundry, it's $1 a pound for a fluff and fold. Starting to weigh the laundry to figure out, is that in my budget? How do I make that in my budget in the next couple months? Start meeting with potential candidates before you're ready to hire. If we were to stay with this laundry theme, which we're just going to, look at what are the local places. It seems that the going rate is $1 a pound. I might check Yelp reviews or see what the most convenient place is. And then I know if it makes sense to start doing that in a month or 2, I already have a plan for who I'm going to hire for that. So the same thing, if you feel like your business is going to grow and you're going to need a virtual assistant soon, start meeting with those people soon, build out your priority matrix in a way that it'll be very easy to say, these are the tasks I need you to do, and find the right virtual assistant that can tackle those specific tasks. Then review the do later. So review like all the content, all your different quadrants. What I see a lot with do later is if I'm not getting anything done that month, is there anything sitting in due later that I need to put a due date on or move to the do now category or the delegate category? So what are some things working well for you? Feel free to kind of unmute yourself. How are you being productive, efficient, and effective?
I'll chime in.
All right.
Okay. This is Jennifer again. And by the way, I'm with the St. Louis Rise. But I find that what works for me is because I have a home office, not just because of Corona, but I have a home office, which is downstairs in my basement. It gets cold down here sometimes. But I find that if I close the door and block myself from the family, it keeps me more in a business frame of mind. But if they're coming up and down all day, even if they're not stopping to talk to me, they're just kind of passing through, it kind of distracts. And once I'm distracted, I hate to say it, depending on how long it takes me to get back to what I was doing, I need something to re-engage. I don't go back to what I was working on, so that piece is lost. I may use it as an opportunity to take a 10-minute break. And what I found that works for me is, I shouldn't say this out loud, but I turn on the TV, go to YouTube, and find like a 6 or 7 minute comedy video, something that kind of breaks the monotony. I laugh, hee hee ha ha, and then I go back to work, and it's great. But I needed that brief distractor to distract me from what distracted me and to get me back on point.
I love that. That's awesome. I've heard of people who work from home that wake up every morning, do their morning routine of showering, brushing teeth, etc., go for a walk around the block, and then come back and start their day. Those transition times between home and work are key, even if home and work is 10 feet away.
And I've tried that, and I'm going to get back in the habit of doing that. I stopped when they said, stay home for that 2 weeks. Don't go out exercising or anything like that. So I have to get back into that. But I did. I used to get up, brush my teeth, wash my face, feed the dog, take the dog out, and give the dog her medicine because she's old before I leave, and then go for a walk anywhere from a half a mile to 2 miles, and then come in. And that worked because once I did that, I was so proud I'd accomplished something. And then I came in and just went to work, and things flowed. And when you're in the startup stage, and I should probably say I'm not in the startup stage, but I'm still in the startup stage, you need something to keep you on point.
Totally. I love that. Julie, what about you?
I've been, the priority matrix is a good thing to revisit. I haven't done one in a long time because I kind of got overwhelmed with it, but I am doing now, I'm in a coaching program, and it's called Monday Hour 1. And so every Monday you spend an hour and kind of brain dump everything you need to get done, and, break it down and then time chunk it out on your calendar. And it's a really great way to get a lot of shit done, but it's also, it forces you to overcome your resistance to want to work on stuff at a time when you don't want to work on it. You just kind of got to, keep following the plan. And I'm doing that pretty well, about 85%, but still that's good. I think what's hard for me is that when I do this kind of thing, because I have individual clients, right, and lots of individual tasks for those clients that are very spelled out in Asana or ClickUp, it becomes like this laundry list of all these tasks that I need to get done for my clients. And then I lose my own stuff, right? And what I want to fit in there personally. So, and in truth, I think the priority matrix, a light bulb kind of went on for me that maybe if I were to to also kind of layer that in, I might identify more stuff that I really need to find a way to delegate, right? Because I'm keeping some of it with me that maybe I don't need to. So that's kind of a takeaway, you know, that I think I can use to do things a little bit better.
Yeah. So Jennifer asked, Julie, how are you doing calendar blocking?
So the way I do it in my Google Calendar. I used to do it on paper, and honestly, I do kind of double duty sometimes because I'm kind of like anal retentive about making sure I don't miss stuff. So I have kind of a paper version in a planner. I use a planner called the Full Focus Planner. And then I also have, sorry, I'm dropping my pencil. And I do everything in pencil, for the record, never in pen. That's also a game changer because things do shift sometimes. And so everything's penciled. But I also use my Google Calendar and I literally time block it there. And part of it is forcing yourself to put guardrails around how much time you're going to spend on stuff, right? Not, well, I don't know how long this is going to take me. You have to take the approach of, I'm going to give it an hour and that's it. And I have to get it done in an hour. And that's the part that's hard for me because the work I do, a lot of it is creative and writing. And sometimes it takes me a while to come up with the idea and flesh it out. So it's not a perfect system yet. I haven't gotten that disciplined that I can always do everything in the time allowed. But for the most part, it works really well. It's just, you know, the purpose of it is to overcome, you know, your brain and not wanting to do things, you know, because you don't feel like it and just doing them anyway, right? Which is a big one for me, particularly doing creative work. It's easy to talk yourself out of it or procrastinate. So it keeps me focused. And it really is amazing how much stuff I can get done, even the more challenging creative stuff when I have it all blocked out like that. And I kind of force myself to stick to it and stick to a time frame. It works pretty well.
Jennifer, I see your hardest part is not reading email all day. This was a big shift for me. Last year, I made the shift of not letting my inbox control me because it's so often like I wanted to clear my inbox. I wanted to have 0 unread. What I did is I started time blocking my inbox. And so on my calendar block, I would say, I'm going to check my email from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. today and from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. today. And then I wouldn't check it in the middle of the day. And what I realized is like, I trained myself and trained my clients and trained my peers that if you email me, I'll instantly email you back. And I set this unrealistic expectation that if you want me, email me and I'm yours instantly. To now, the majority of my emails, I don't respond for 24 hours at least. Some of my emails I'm getting to that have been unread since April 1st, I realized. And when I talk to some people, like everybody else is busy too. So if it was that urgent, they'd call me or they'd text me or they'd find a different way. And Sarah asked, did I communicate that to my old clients who were used to my priority quick responses? And the answer is no. I realized I was the only one that cared. And I think that I know some of my clients and I know like the super needy ones. And if I didn't respond to the email fast enough, they found me on Slack. And I would say, oh yeah, I'm going to check that. I'm going to go into my inbox at 4:00 today. I'll make sure you're the first person that I reply to. But to just kind of set these new expectations. And I think also I started using Calendly to schedule meetings. And at first I felt like, oh, that's going to be so impersonal. Like people are going to really want to like talk to me about it. But then I was spending 30 minutes going back and forth with somebody to find a time to schedule. And I was trying to squeeze them into my already busy week because I felt I needed to talk to them the next day. And now on my Calendly, like, I think most people are scheduling like 3 weeks out for me. And what I'm realizing is like, that was an unrealistic expectation that I put on myself, that people need to meet with me this week. And there's certainly some clients that are super high maintenance that pay me money to get my attention right away, and I'm happy to give it to them because they happily pay me. But for the ones that aren't, like, I can't treat everybody the same. And so I'm not going to. And nobody has been upset with me that they can't find a time. Or if it's somebody, I'll say, here's my Calendly link for you to pick the time that's most convenient for you. If you don't find a time that works, share 3 times that work best for you, and I'll find time on my calendar for you. And so it kind of gives them the option, and I word it in a way that it's like, oh, this is the most convenient option for you. And I actually love when people send me Acuity or Calendly links, because then I get to pick the best time for me. So whether it's like in the morning, my brain works better than in the afternoon. So if it's like a highly intelligent conversation, I'll pick a time between 10 a.m. and noon. If it's like a catch up with a friend, that's going to be more late afternoon when it's not a lot of heady work for me. Melody, what about you?
What about me?
How are you productive, efficient, and effective? I know you've got a lot of things on your plate.
My productivity, just like my work, comes in, it ebbs and flows. And it's a challenge to keep that motivation when you don't know when that crazy waterfall of work comes. I just got one last night at 5 o'clock, a potential huge project that would require me to basically, I have to work nonstop till these projects are done, and then it ends. So I've never used a priority matrix. I'm going to try. And honestly, I haven't been productive. So that's why I'm here today.
I love it. There's hope, Melody. And I think like just keep breaking down like those big chunks of things and like how can that be more efficient? So how can a proposal be more efficient and effective? What's that boilerplate stuff that's copy and paste? Who's going to get you the answers that you need to be able to fill in the other stuff?
I mean, truthfully, I have been the most unproductive I've been in my whole life, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
But like I said, I just got a big potential project last night, so I better get my ass in gear.
I love it. Did you all see, there is some image that was going around that says, if you don't come out of this global pandemic with a new skill, a new side hustle, a new source of revenue, you don't lack time, you lack discipline. And I was in the camp that I was very angry about that because I felt it was very tone deaf. Everybody is experiencing much different things in this global pandemic. Some people are just trying to make rent next month. And so it's not like we all are just working from home and we've got all this time all of a sudden immediately to then do everything that was in our parking lot of learning a new skill and building a new side hustle. Like, I believe that it's okay to just sit in unproductivity and to just say, yep, I did not get anything done on Monday. We had just moved. We're in the process of selling a house. We're in the process of selling a business. I feel like I've done all of these big pivots in my business over the last month. And like, I was just a couch potato, completely zoned out for the whole day. And I was complaining.
That surprises me because you're like the Energizer bunny. But I had a conversation with Amy Quinn last week.
Uh-huh.
And we were actually talking about productivity. And I told her that I feel like I don't have value if I'm not being productive. But she told me that I have to find some peace and delight in the mundane, because this period will end, and I will probably be hit with some sort of windfall of either work, getting a new job, starting a new company, rebuilding. So that's where I do find some peace in the lack of productivity in fits and starts, not all the time. So just so that I'm clear, I'm okay with being unproductive last week because I was also recovering from an injury. This week, I'm working on it, but next week I might give myself a little wiggle room to be not productive. But, as very highly productive women, it sounds like we have here, it's okay to have the couch potato day. That is part of taking care of yourself. So I would encourage everyone to also build in those time blocks for unproductive, or how about wellness, self-care time. Even if it's, Jennifer said she had the comedy period for getting her headset. That's really great. But what about just laying still for 15 minutes with no phone? I mean, you can get incredible restorative time. So make sure you build in a little bit of downtime into your production, if you will.
I love that. Yeah. On Monday,
and do it intentionally. I think that's the key, to do it intentionally, right? Like this is what I'm doing now, and I'm doing it on purpose. And it's not, you know what I mean? Like sometimes we just sort of busy, flitting around, like not really being very intentional about our time. And I'm way guilty of that, right? And I also like to be hyper productive because it's where I get my sense of self-worth. But to your point, when I intentionally set aside time and I say, listen, I'm going to spend this hour to just walk the dogs and listen to a podcast and not, or I'm going to spend, my 20 minutes and meditate every morning, it's just being very intentional about it makes all the difference, instead of just kind of haphazardly feeling all guilty about it. There's something to really, like you said, time blocking it and actually making it one of your priorities, just like everything else.
Yes. That's definitely like why I have solitaire and Hulu in my do later, because I do that every day, and it's gonna be on my list, and that is sort of a reward, but also like that's how I spend my time, and I'm not gonna be feel guilty about it. I was on this webinar last month with this group of women entrepreneurs, and we kind of all had this breakthrough of like, there were so many people telling us like, this is your moment to shine, like be a leader in this, like be the voice that people need in this global pandemic. And like, and I just got tired, and I said, I don't want to live up to my potential. I want to take a nap. I want to figure my own shit out. I want to like get my own life in order before I'm a thought leader for the world on a global pandemic. Like, don't let external pressures be who you are. And like, yes, the Pledgettes, like, it's an awesome time to be talking about money, and there's definitely more interest in talking about money, but like, I don't need to put so much pressure on myself to be the end all be all. I need to be there for my members. I need to be there for my community. I need to be there for the people that are most important to me, but I don't need to save the world. And I think like, because we're in this mindset of like high achieving, like this is our moment to shine. I want to be a thought leader on money and women. But if I can't take care of myself, I can't show up for other people. So I'm going to take a nap. It was Friday afternoon, had a glass of wine, watched 90 Day Fiance on Hulu, and zoned out. And that was fine. And it also gave me more appropriate expectations for myself, because I'm not competing for everybody to be the best, just need to show up for my community and my people. I don't need to be the most successful, innovative. What was the other one? Like in the flu of whatever it was, 1918 or whenever that big flu was, like somebody made this huge scientific discovery, and it's like, great, thank you. I appreciate you, but I also don't need to.
That one circulated at our school. In fact, we were, it was one of the things that was going around, right, about, people being hyper productive, during times like this, because they're tuning out everything else that was kind of the point, right? Yeah. Like, because, they didn't get caught up in everything that was going on. They just sort of went into their own world and kind of, experienced their genius or whatever. Like, it was all cool. But yeah, I mean, this is, I don't know, it's a pretty crazy time. People just got to do what they got to do.
Totally. All right. So one of my favorite things with every event that I host is that discussion is one thing and action is what moves the needle. So before we all go, I would love to share what is one action step that you are committing to based on our discussion today. And Jennifer, since I know you need to take off soon, do you want to go first?
Yes, I am definitely going to create a priority matrix today. I like the idea. And once you started talking about it, I remembered it. I have heard of it and seen it before. Because I didn't invest into it, the name escaped me. So when you said it, I was like, no, never heard of that. But definitely I will work on that, and I'm going to set my time for doing that at 2 p.m.
Awesome. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies. It was a pleasure connecting with all of you. And I really want to hear everyone's what they're going to take away. So I have 4 minutes. I can continue to listen.
All right. Awesome. And then whenever you come out to Denver, you have to stop and meet us all in person, Jennifer.
I hope I will. You met my daughter, Robbie. I don't know if you met her, but Robbie, she worked at Rise. Well, all of them are on hiatus now.
Yeah.
But fortunately, she got to meet a lot of you guys when she was out there last year when they went together for some, getting to know the company type deal. I forget the name of it. But she loved it out there.
Awesome.
So we have definitely decided to plan a trip there whenever this ban on traveling is lifted.
I love it.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. All right, Julie, what about you?
Well, like I said, I'm gonna take my list and I'm gonna apply the priority matrix to it. And honestly, I think what I'm probably gonna find is that there's a lot of stuff that's going to land in the lower left that honestly I just need to get rid of, right? And that's easier said than done. It's going to be a pretty big shift, if I'm honest, around what I really value working on and what I really don't value working on. So this is all kind of part of the exploration I'm going through right now anyway. So good stuff.
It really is. Melody, what about you?
I would like to reiterate what Jennifer and Julie said. I'm going to apply all of the things, but I'm really interested in the apps. I love an organized app. I also have a notebook that's crazy, like scribbly. I would love that to be, I like writing things, but I'm going to try an app this afternoon. I'm with Jennifer. I'm going to slot a time, maybe, let's see, 2:00 sounds good to me.
Awesome. Sarah, what about you?
I'm going to look into ClickUp per Julie's recommendation. We have been lucky with a small team that like we could just hodgepodge things together. But it's going to get a little unruly and we need to have a place that's visible to everyone. I think the lack of transparency on who's doing what causes a lot of stress. So I'm going to look into that one. Thanks, Julie.
You're welcome.
I will say with my biggest game changer, let me see if share desktop. Can you guys see my priority matrix?
We're seeing your calendar.
My calendar, yes. So with events in Asana, I do a board and then here, let me pick an event. This one. And I have a number of subtasks, and these are all the little things I have to do for every event. I just come up here and duplicate tasks, and then that's how I create a new event. So those repetitive things that I'm doing, it just goes in, it gets duplicated. So instead of writing out like post on my website, post on Facebook, post on our calendar, do all the thank the speaker. It just keeps getting duplicated over and over again. And I can duplicate the person who it's assigned to. So like Alicia does all these things, I'm doing these things. And then all I'm doing is just updating the dates for everything. So that has been very helpful for like those repetitive tasks that I do, and then all the little bitty subtasks that come with it.
I think that's kind of key, right, in project management software is, you know, figuring out kind of your template for how you do certain stuff and then just duplicating it every time, right? It's kind of, it makes all the difference in the world. Otherwise, your project management tool, just maintaining it becomes a nightmare, right?
Yeah.
Because you're always kind of one-offing everything in there. So the more you can templatize, the better for sure.
And Sarah, one thing I also did that was very helpful is I did our workflows in here. So every time we have a webinar, these are all the action items that happen. And I know that Rise, as well as me, is very specific in like brand standards. So when you post on Eventbrite, I have, here's the template for everything that I do on Eventbrite. And so I'm not going back and like double checking everything. I'm just copying and pasting so many times. And then the handbook also allowed me to look at these workflows. And I know like Bryn Brown said in her Rise event, like, what steps can you eliminate? Like, what are those low value things that like, we just don't need to do that anymore? Or like what things can combine. And by having a workflow, it leads to a great discussion when I'm talking to Alicia, my virtual assistant, of like, what do we really get from that? You know, and what is the juice worth the squeeze? Or is there a more efficient way? And what these workflows have really helped me do is to make the decision to invest in more automation. So instead of having a virtual assistant post the event 5 times, I learned I could pay somebody to set up Zaps in Zapier to just automate all of that. And so it goes in Eventbrite, and then it automatically posts to a few different places, which is
Zaps are really cool.
I know.
I'm a fan.
I love it. I am committing to spending an hour focusing on my do now list today, this afternoon, at 2 o'clock as well. 2 o'clock is going to be a magically productive hour. Oh man. Well, thank you guys so much. I feel like some of you came just to support me, which I totally love. And I'm glad to hear that everybody has taken something away to be more productive, but also be very graceful with yourself in this crazy time.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Melody and Jen, just the idea that it's okay to not save the world, especially when a lot of what I do, I can't do right now. So I'm just trying to like find stuff to fill my time just so I can feel busy and purposeful. And I need to not. I could be reading a book or listening to a podcast, and that's okay.
Totally.
So thank you.